I feel sick. What was that? What the hell was that? The Knicks, who can look so legendary as a team in the first quarter, then they look like a car wreck in the second quarter. Only New York can find the way to do that. Jalen Brunson with one of his worst performances of the entire season. And Mike Brown, what is going on with the lineups and the rotations? Last night, he made a horrible lineup change. And Karl-Anthony Towns, he was called out after the game for a serious problem. We're going to break down all of these latest reports today. This episode is presented by FanDuel. We have a goal of trying to reach 40,000 subscribers, and we could really use your support. If you enjoy daily Knicks content, please hit that subscribe button. And now, let's get started. The Knicks call out Karl-Anthony Towns. It almost looked like the Knicks were going to make that legendary comeback late in the fourth quarter. But unfortunately, the Boston Celtics stepped up, they made key plays late, and they stopped the Knicks' comeback attempt. And now New York has another road loss on their record. As you can see here, the Knicks dropped this game 117 to 123. The Boston Celtics destroyed New York in the second quarter. New York could not recover from that. Even though they tried to make a great comeback late in that fourth, it didn't matter. The Boston Celtics, they were still able to close out the game and get this victory. And shout out the channel sponsor FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, for giving us this updated information on who was supposed to win the game last night between the Knicks and the Boston Celtics. And by the money line, you guys can see it. Even FanDuel couldn't call this game. To them, it was a coin flip. Either team could win. But if you look at the spread, the Knicks were slight favorites. Unfortunately, though, they could not pull out the victory against the Boston Celtics on the road. Once again, losing on the road. Let me just get this out of the way because it's not the full focus of this video. Jalen Brunson last night was awful. One of his worst games as a Knick player. One of his worst games of this entire season. Just take a look. Jalen Brunson last night, as New York loses to the Boston Celtics, 15 points, 6 of 21 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. Thankfully, he gave you 11 assists, but he also gave you 3 costly turnovers, and he was a -4 for the game. Just look at the shooting numbers in comparison. Mikal Bridges, who was on fire last night, but we can't even talk about it because it's a loss. He shot 71%. Josh Hart, 64%. Karl-Anthony Towns, 60%. Deuce McBride, 50%. Then we have Brick City with Jalen Brunson, 28.6% shooting. Regardless if he's the captain or not, you gotta call out when somebody's having a bad performance. And last night, Jalen Brunson did not look like himself. There were even some occasions that he was taking the ball in isolation situations and he was forcing the shot, trying to get contact in those situations. That's not what Jalen Brunson does. However, a frustrated Jalen Brunson, he is going to do that. But I'm not making any excuses for the captain. There were some moments during last night's game where he had the ball in his hands and he was trying to make a play that he should have passed the ball, and he didn't. He was also getting targeted by Jaylen Brown and a couple of other Celtics players when they were trying to find the mismatch. And every single time they would find it, they would attack Jalen Brunson, and it would be an easy layup to the rim, an easy bucket, an easy and one, and they would get to the line. And those were the problems with Jalen Brunson last night. He also had a couple of key turnovers late that helped the Celtics close out the game. We have to mention that. The only reason I'm not going crazy about Jalen Brunson and his performance is because these type of performances from Jalen Brunson, they don't happen often. Honestly, I can't remember the last time Jalen Brunson looked that bad. And Brunson, he even acknowledged after the game he was not playing his best brand of basketball. But I'm not worried about Jalen Brunson. I know the captain will bounce back. Even though his play last night was a problem, and it did lead to the Knicks losing the game to the Boston Celtics, he was not the only reason why the Knicks lost that game. Let's go to Mike Brown. Let's go to those rotations. Let's go to those horrible lineup decisions that Mike Brown made last night. One of them was playing Jalen Brunson and Tyler Kolek together for a significant period of time. Both of those players, even though they try their best on defense, we have to acknowledge they're not the best defenders. And in that second quarter, when Jalen Brown was going off inside the paint against Tyler Kolek, against Jalen Brunson, and we're not making the right changes, we're even putting in Jordan Clarkson, at times Gerson Yabusele. How are we going to help the defense by putting in these type of players? Mike Brown, what are you doing? Early on in the regular season, what I saw Mike Brown doing was experimenting. And when things didn't work, he changed it, and he changed it fast. But over the course of this season, he has stopped doing that. When something's not working, maybe he calls a timeout, but he doesn't really make a lineup change. He continues to put that same lineup out there so they can kind of learn through experience. And sometimes I understand that, especially if there are rookies out there or young Knick players out there. However, if we're losing our lead, had a 14-point lead in that second quarter, and then it disappears because New York allows Jalen Brown to do whatever he wants to do inside the paint. He has a wide open lane inside the paint each and every time. He's attacking without any resistance, without any help from other Knick players. And even worse, when the Knicks try to help, they foul him and put him at the line. There were a lot of issues last night with the Knicks, their lineup and rotation decisions. But what they did in that second quarter, in my opinion, led to their downfall and them losing that game. Mike Brown was supposed to be the coach that played the matchups, that didn't worry about who was going to get minutes. It was always about, this player is playing, I have an advantage if I play this player or if I play this rotation. I thought that was what Mike Brown was going to do with this Knicks team when he took over, when he became the head coach. So that way, every single person on this team, they could have an opportunity to shine when we were playing certain teams. Because sometimes we do need more size out there. Maybe we needed more Mohamed Diawara minutes last night, but we didn't get it because Mike Brown, time and time again, continued to go to certain players that he normally plays during the regular season. You also have to understand what's happening on the floor. In that second quarter, when your lead is gone, when you're getting destroyed inside the paint, when the Boston Celtics are moving the ball and getting anything that they want, and the lineup you have out there is not doing what you need it to do, call a timeout, pull those players, and put in different players and see what happens. You're talking about you're searching, you're experimenting. That's part of experimenting. Do that. Mike Brown, I understand it's only been 20 games, but that 25 game mark is coming up very soon. And I have a lot of thoughts about Mike Brown. Some good and clearly some bad. But that second quarter, it wasn't only about what Jalen Brunson couldn't do. It wasn't only about the horrible lineup decisions that Mike Brown made. It was also about another player. When, if you look at his impact last night, you look at the box score, you might even look at the plus minus for that quarter, and you think to yourself, why is Recap talking about this player and not talking about this other player or this other player? I'm about to tell you why. That second quarter, we had a lot of reasons why we lost it. But in my opinion, Karl-Anthony Towns was one of the major reasons why. And the craziest thing, he was playing very well in that second quarter. But what happened? He started to get hit down low and the refs didn't give him a call. That's not anything new, by the way, for Karl-Anthony Towns. It happens every single game. At this point, he has to accept it and play through it. But last night, he didn't. He got extremely frustrated. Even though he was tearing up the Boston Celtics inside, they were throwing doubles at him, and he was powering through them and still getting the bucket to go, getting an and one and getting to the line. Sometimes he was not getting those calls, but he let those times frustrate him to make frustration fouls, take him out of his game. And then he was starting to force shots. He was drawing so many defenders, and instead of passing the ball out of that, he was driving into the contact, trying to get contact and go to the line or still make a play at the basket. Not the right move or the right play. And you can look at it. You can chart it. Look at that moment. I believe around the 6-minute mark in that second quarter. New York is up about 14 points. And then their lead starts to go down. And then it goes away. They lose all of the momentum because of Karl-Anthony Towns playing in this way. Shout out to Edwards for giving us this following information as well. With 6:54 left before halftime, Towns was backing down Boston's Jalen Brown when Celtics guard Hugo Gonzalez stepped down to double team, leaving Hart wide open for a three. At this point, Hart hadn't missed from deep. He was 3 for 3. Towns still tried to force his way through two defenders. He lost the ball. Hart stood close by, his hands out, wondering why he wasn't putting up a shot. And you can think this means nothing, but after the game, Josh Hart made a comment, and it was a very cryptic comment. And in my opinion, it looks like it was targeted to Karl-Anthony Towns because of that situation. Take a look. This is what Hart had to say after the game. Shout out to NBA insider Steph Bondy with the New York Post for giving us this following information. We can't get bored with what's working, what's winning basketball. I felt like we got bored doing that. And then we started doing whatever, playing bad offense, giving up anything defensively. Now here's the line that I believe is targeted to Karl-Anthony Towns. Listen to this. So we've got to make sure we are locked in on making sure the success of the team is the number one objective. In those moments where Karl-Anthony Towns is going up against 2 or 3 defenders, is he thinking about the team or is he thinking about himself, his own stats, where he is in the game, how he individually can impact the game? Because to me, in moments like that, where he is drawing 2 or 3 defenders, and Knicks' brand of basketball, at least during this win streak, has been ball movement, playing unselfishly, drawing the defense, and then kicking it out and spraying it to an open shooter or an open cutter. Last night, was Towns doing that? He wasn't. And after the game, head coach Mike Brown even called out Karl-Anthony Towns for not making those passes. Why? Because it's not Knicks branded basketball. He needs to play better, and the head coach is now calling him out. According to Mike Brown, a post-up is a paint touch, and a drive is a paint touch. If anyone draws 2 defenders, they got to spray it out. I thought through the first quarter, we did a good job of spraying the basketball. I think we had 7 sprays in 1 quarter, which we lead the league in. We didn't do a great job in that second quarter of touching the paint and spraying it out. And Karl-Anthony Towns was one of the few guys that didn't do that. Josh Hart has basically called you out. Mike Brown has basically called you out. We've seen it throughout the season. When you get frustrated, you make bad plays. You cause frustration fouls. And if you're in the groove and you're helping the Knicks win the quarter, you now have to go to the bench to rest and recover, cool off, and then come back into the game. And as soon as that happens, you kill the Knicks' momentum automatically when you look for your shot and you're not going to winning basketball, moving the ball, exactly what the Knicks were doing in that first quarter that led them to win in that first quarter and go up 14 points on the Boston Celtics. The reason that was the case is because they were moving the ball, getting open looks, open three-point shots. They were driving inside, and they were taking the best quality shots. That's why New York was on top. When they completely abandoned that in the second quarter, that's why the Boston Celtics were able to get back into the game, steal the lead, and now we're here talking about a Knicks loss. And you know what the issue is about Knicks losses? When the Knicks lose, you can't be happy about anything. You can't celebrate anything. And that's a problem because we should be celebrating one player right now, and we can't even do that. I'll do it really quickly because he deserves it, but I won't make it a focus because we lost. Shout out to Mikal Bridges, career high, 8 3-pointers made. He dropped 30 points in the second half, and he finished the game with 35 points, with 71% shooting from the field, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers, 2 steals. Once again, a monster on defense. He is playing at an elite level this season. And shout out to Knicks Muse on the app X for giving us this information. Even though he's playing at an elite level, even though he dropped a season-high 35 points for the Knicks in this loss, again, it's a loss. We can't even be happy. We can't even talk about it. We can't even praise Mikal Bridges for the great game that he had because we lost. And we lost because of how we played in that second quarter and in that third quarter. I don't care about what the Knicks did in that fourth quarter. I don't care that they took an 18-point deficit. They cut it down to 3, but they still couldn't close out the game. I don't care about that because they still couldn't close out the game. They could not win. And that's because when you're playing from that big of a deficit, you can only get so close before you gas out. And the other team just has this much left to take over the game and win the game. If they play the way they played last night against the Celtics, they will lose another game against the Hornets. They have to play what got them here. They have to play the way that makes them so dangerous. If they don't play that way, it's like playing a different team altogether. That does not make sense. If playing this way gets you the game, gets you the victory, why would you play this way? Why would you even think to play this way? This is what the Knicks are doing, and it needs to stop. We need to see 48 minutes of consistent basketball. Consistent Knicks basketball on both sides of the ball, and it needs to start as soon as possible. New York is a very bad road team, and the championship teams, they never say that. New York needs to get it together, and they need to do it fast. But what about you guys? What do you think about the Knicks dropping this game against the Boston Celtics 123 to 117? Let me know how you feel about that in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans, take care of yourself, your families, and each other. Peace and love.